Now, it's been just over a week since Air India Flight 171 crashed into a building just moments after takeoff.
The crash of Air India Flight 171 has triggered a wide-ranging discourse in the aviation industry, bringing to the forefront the intersection of technical reliability, regulatory robustness, corporate accountability, and passenger trust. In the aftermath of the accident, the focus immediately turned toward the factors that led a modern, advanced Boeing 787 Dreamliner to plummet from the sky moments after takeoff. With 241 lives lost on board and additional fatalities on the ground, the incident represents not only an aviation catastrophe, but also a symbol of broader systemic failures across multiple dimensions of the aviation ecosystem. The initial reports paint a grim picture of cascading malfunctions that occurred in rapid succession, overwhelming the crew and the aircraft's systems alike. Flight 171 lifted off on June 12, 2025 from Ahmedabad's Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, destined for London Gatwick. Within half a minute of takeoff, the aircraft began a sudden and rapid descent. This incident was all the more shocking because the aircraft was neither old nor heavily worn. Its 11-year service history, while mature, was far from nearing the typical end-of-life phase for commercial jets. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner involved in this disaster was powered by two GE Gen X 1B engines and had logged about 39,400 flight hours with approximately 7,400 takeoff and landing cycles. Despite these reasonable metrics, the plane failed to maintain altitude, raising immediate questions about whether this was a mechanical failure, a design flaw, or the result of human error. Rescue teams recovered both the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, which are central to deciphering the root cause of the crash. The recovery and successful extraction of data were accomplished with support from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, marking an essential breakthrough in this investigation. These devices recorded crucial readings such as engine performance data, flight control positions, and cockpit conversations, all of which will play a pivotal role in reconstructing the final moments of Flight 171. Early analysis pointed to the activation of the ram air turbine, RAT, a rarely used system that is deployed automatically in cases of severe electrical or engine power failures. This suggested an abrupt and possibly simultaneous loss of both engines, though officials cautioned that such systems could also deploy due to erroneous triggers or cascading failures elsewhere. Several video recordings and eyewitness accounts indicated that the aircraft had an abnormal climb profile and visible anomalies such as extended landing gear and misaligned wing flaps. These signs point toward possible mechanical misconfiguration, failure of automated systems, or lapses in crew response during the emergency. Notably, passengers had reported technical issues even before the flight took off, including broken in-flight entertainment screens and malfunctioning air conditioning, raising concerns about whether the aircraft's readiness was compromised even before departure. The crash has triggered heightened scrutiny, particularly because it is the first fatal hull loss involving a Boeing 787 Dreamliner since the model's introduction in 2011. Boeing's Dreamliner program has faced technical issues over the years, albeit mostly non-fatal ones until now. Problems such as production defects, software glitches, and quality control lapses have been documented repeatedly. Earlier in 2025, a scandal involving forged quality certifications for components supplied to Boeing further fueled questions about the integrity of the Dreamliner's production line. These systemic quality control concerns have now resurfaced with greater urgency following the crash. In response to the tragedy, Boeing deployed its technical experts to assist Indian investigators, and its CEO canceled participation in the Paris Air Show to address the fallout directly. While Boeing faces scrutiny, Air India too has come under the spotlight. The airline temporarily grounded its entire Dreamliner fleet, canceled dozens of international flights, and reduced wide-body services, showing the scale of operational disruption stemming from this accident. Booking reductions of nearly 20% were reported as passenger confidence wavered, highlighting the commercial implications of the crash beyond technical analysis. Meanwhile, regulators worldwide, including India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, and the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, AESA, began closely monitoring the investigation. India's decision to reject the involvement of a United Nations aviation expert added another layer of controversy, with some observers raising concerns over the transparency of the probe. The incident has also reignited criticism of Air India's operational practices, especially around pilot scheduling, fatigue management, and emergency readiness. Reports surfaced of flight crew members possibly working beyond permitted duty limits and senior airline staff facing suspension amid allegations of safety protocol violations. Maintenance culture within Air India also came under scrutiny, with questions raised about how proactively the airline had addressed technical issues previously reported on the aircraft involved in the crash. Boeing's own position within the global aviation industry is increasingly precarious following this disaster. Even before this incident, the company was recovering from the severe reputational damage inflicted by the 737 MAX crashes and subsequent grounding. Financially, Boeing had lost tens of billions in market capitalization since the MAX crisis, and the crash of Flight 171 triggered another sharp dip in its share price. Airline executives, investors, Insurers and regulators now question not only the safety of the 787 Dreamliner, but also Boeing's broader commitment to safety and manufacturing integrity. Legal ramifications of the crash are expected to be far-reaching. Under the Montreal Convention, airlines are liable for damages suffered by passengers unless they can prove the incident was not due to negligence on their part or was caused by a third party. Lawsuits are expected from the families of victims, including those from multiple nations such as India, Canada, the United Kingdom, and several Gulf states. Legal experts predict that while Air India will be the primary target for compensation claims, Boeing and General Electric may also face legal action if systemic flaws are identified. Shareholder lawsuits, class actions, and regulatory fines could further intensify Boeing's financial burdens. Beyond direct compensation, insurance claims surrounding this crash could reshape the aviation insurance landscape. Reports suggest that the hull insurance on the aircraft exceeded $100 million, with additional third-party liabilities potentially reaching even higher figures depending on how fault is allocated. Insurers may attempt to avoid payouts if regulatory findings point to gross negligence or procedural violations. Any protracted legal disputes could ripple across the global aviation insurance sector, potentially leading to higher premiums for certain aircraft models or airlines perceived as high risk. Passenger sentiment has shifted dramatically in the wake of the crash. Online forums and social media discussions reflect heightened anxiety over aircraft safety, particularly regarding Boeing's Dreamliner fleet. Booking patterns have shifted as some passengers now actively avoid the 787 on certain routes, preferring alternative aircraft or airlines. Airlines in response have begun to proactively communicate with passengers about safety protocols and maintenance standards to restore confidence. Some carriers have even reassigned Airbus aircraft to routes previously served by the Dreamliner, prioritizing passenger perceptions over fuel efficiency considerations. This disaster has also triggered renewed discussions about the adequacy of pilot training programs, particularly in rapidly growing aviation markets. While modern aircraft are equipped with sophisticated automation and safety systems, they still require human pilots to make rapid and complex decisions during emergencies. There is now a growing push to expand simulator training programs to include rare but catastrophic scenarios such as simultaneous engine failures during critical flight phases. Current training often focuses on single engine failures or other more common emergencies, leaving gaps in preparedness for incidents like the Flight 171 crash. Boeing's globalized supply chain strategy is another area under scrutiny. The Dreamliner program was designed to leverage an extensive network of international suppliers to reduce costs and speed up production. However, this decentralized model has been plagued by challenges in quality assurance and traceability. The 2024 scandal involving forged certifications for titanium components highlighted vulnerabilities in the supply chain, and the latest crash has amplified calls for tighter controls. Some experts now advocate for a shift toward more centralized production processes for critical systems such as avionics, landing gear, and power management units. While this approach could increase manufacturing costs, it may also improve traceability and accountability, potentially mitigating future risks. Within India, the crash has provoked a complex political debate. Air India's privatization under the Tata Group was previously hailed as a significant milestone in modernizing the country's aviation sector. The airline's massive order of over 470 aircraft from Boeing and Airbus in 2023 was celebrated as a symbol of India's growing economic power. However, the Flight 171 crash has exposed weaknesses in regulatory oversight, infrastructure development, and safety protocols. Opposition parties have criticized the government's refusal to allow UN investigators, framing it as a symptom of broader transparency issues. Debates in India's parliament are expected to intensify as more findings emerge, with calls for stricter oversight of the aviation sector. Aviation accidents have historically led to lasting changes in industry practices and regulatory frameworks. The 1985 Japan Airlines crash resulted in structural improvements to aircraft bulkheads, while the 2009 Air France 447 crash prompted revisions in pilot training for high-altitude stalls. The Boeing 737 MAX crashes led to widespread changes in software design and regulatory processes. Depending on the findings of the investigation, the Flight 171 crash could become another pivotal moment for the industry. Possible outcomes include enhanced redundancy in power management systems, stricter controls on engine maintenance intervals, and new standards for composite material inspections. Engineers may begin developing additional mechanical backups for critical systems during takeoff and climb phases, potentially incorporating new technologies to provide alternative sources of thrust or control. The crash also raises questions about the behavior of composite fuselages under extreme crash conditions. While composites offer weight reduction and durability benefits, their structural behavior during high-impact incidents remains an area of ongoing research. The survivability of one passenger in the Flight 171 crash may lead to discussions about improved cabin layouts, enhanced crashworthiness of emergency exit areas, and the introduction of energy-absorbing materials in fuselage designs. The Dreamliner was originally marketed as a revolutionary aircraft that would transform long-haul air travel. Its composite airframe, improved cabin pressurization, and fuel-efficient engines were meant to set new standards for the industry. However, the combination combination of quality control issues, operational concerns, and now a fatal crash has severely damaged its image. Restoring trust in the Dreamliner program will require Boeing to take unprecedented steps in transparency, accountability, and technical rigor. The longer-term implications of this disaster extend beyond Boeing itself. Regulatory agencies worldwide may impose new oversight measures not only on the Dreamliner but also on future aircraft programs. Airlines could face stricter requirements for pilot training, maintenance documentation, and operational monitoring. Lessors and financiers may also become more cautious, demanding higher safety assurances before committing to new orders or financing arrangements. In the coming months, the global aviation community will closely follow the progress of the Indian investigation. The preliminary report is expected within weeks, offering initial insights into the crash's causes. However, the final report, likely to take up to a year, will carry the most weight. It will provide a comprehensive analysis of the technical, operational, regulatory, and organizational factors that contributed to the crash. Boeing's response to these findings will be critical in determining its future trajectory. A proactive, transparent, and cooperative approach may help the company begin to rebuild trust, but any perception of defensiveness or lack of accountability could deepen the crisis. The crash of Air India Flight 171 has already redefined conversations around aviation safety, corporate responsibility, and regulatory oversight. It underscores that the stakes in commercial aviation remain extraordinarily high and that systemic weaknesses can have catastrophic consequences. As investigators work to untangle the complex chain of events that led to this tragedy, the global aviation industry faces a profound reckoning with its own assumptions, practices, and priorities. The legacy of this crash will likely shape aviation policy, engineering standards, and corporate strategies for years to come, serving as a sobering reminder of the ever-present need for vigilance in every facet of air travel.